Right, hello and good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for signing up to join us in this second meeting of the Education Data Lab community. Just to determine that everyone is in the right place, so this is for developing an AI adoption strategy in education, processes, insights and challenges. I'm just going to give a kind of running order just so that everyone's clear on what's going to sort of happen. I'm going to be presenting first. I'm Jamie Laycock. I'm Head of Biology and AI Lead at the Glasgow Academy. I'll be presenting for around about 20 minutes. Then David Hiddleston, who's a Curriculum Team Manager at Edinburgh College, he'll be presenting straight after that as well, so get two perspectives straight away. Let's just make everyone aware that the recording, that the whole thing is going to be recorded and then will be shared with you afterwards if you want to look at this retrospectively, but it'll also be posted to the Data Lab community after that as well. There will be like a question sort of discussion section towards the end. We're asking you that if you've got questions, you can either put those in the chat, or if you're happy coming into the chat to actually, say your question, that's fine as well. But just be mindful of the fact that this will be recorded. So therefore, if you don't want to be in a recording, then just put your question in the chat. And if the question is specific to one of the presenters, just tag our name into that so we know who needs to answer. But equally, if it's an open question, both David and I will endeavour to try and answer those questions. And there will be a QR code at the end. I'll put the link in the chat as well, just to give us feedback and allow us to kind of, develop this community further based on, your responses. Okay. Basically, a big shout out to the Data Lab and the guys in the background who have been helping to kind of set this up. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. If you haven't joined the Data Lab community, please do that. It's free to join. And also, if you're joining that community, then there is the education group that's part of that community where resources, etc., are kind of shared. So yeah, get involved basically, okay? Also, if you're interested in the Data Lab are also hosting the Data Fest this May. If that's something you're interested in, then obviously go to their webpage and find out more about that. I went last year. It's really interesting, amazing. In fact, it exposes you to kind of like data and all its manifestations, not all specific to education, but just across the board from business, further ed, all that sort of thing. Okay. So I'm going to start presenting. My name is Jamie Laycock. I work at the Glasgow Academy, and I have kind of become the AI lead at the school, really because I kind of just shown interest in this area specifically, and it's kind of like sparked my kind of imagination, especially as an educator, based on really my sort of life experience in terms of, I don't feel that we really got the social media epidemic kind of right. We're still dealing with that. And as soon as I saw, ChatGPT when it first came out, I just thought, oh my God, this is either going to be like the best thing for education, or it's likely going to have, certain negative effects at the same time too. And it's probably going to sit somewhere in the middle of that. So we need to be like leaning into this to ensure that we as educators are involved in the process of how we're developing it in our, communities basically. Okay. As part of this, the challenges ahead are kind of pretty massive, but I think we also need to be mindful of the fact that even if you're in this chat right now, so this infographic I got off of LinkedIn, I couldn't find the actual original source of it, but I think kind of represents kind of where we're at. So there's a lot of people on this planet. If you are in these, as it were, sort of yellow dot zone on this infographic, that means you're literally on the cutting edge of like where AI is, if you're even thinking about it, okay? I'm thinking about it from an educational perspective. I think that's why you guys are here as well. And I'm concerned about the impact it's going to have on our learners. And, there's evidence already, for example, from the Pew Research Centre, that our young learners are using this more than we might even possibly imagine. So even if your school is not allowing AI into your school, AI is already in the school because the learners, are utilizing it. Okay. At the same time, I'm coming from the perspective that and I think this is becoming more common now, that the skills required by our learners are changing. The World Economic Forum has identified this, and we kind of need to lean into this more and more and more. So what are these human-centric skills that we want to embody in our learners? and how does AI influence that, and how does AI allow us maybe to actually augment these skills within our learners at the same time. Also aware of the fact that AI seems to be constantly on this kind of upwards curve. This data from Anthropic kind of indicates where the sort of observed AI coverage is in red, but the blue indicates the potential. Now, I know this might be slightly biased because it's from Anthropic, but I think this just kind of indicates like we're not really using the AI as much as it has the potential to be used. How is this going to impact our learners long term, and how is it going to impact the opportunities that our learners have when they kind of go into the workforce and that sort of thing? It's kind of quite scary, to be honest with you. And then I'm looking at it from the perspective of like, well, staff and pupils don't really understand how necessarily this technology works and how best to utilize it. So I think we have a responsibility as educators to make sure that if our learners are using this and our staff are using this, that they understand how to utilize it effectively. So it's not just about using it as a search engine. It is about checking outputs, verifying things, and being really critical in the analysis of any outputs that the AI is actually doing. So this means there's a hell of a lot of literacy that needs to be kind of taught to our learners for them to even, understand whether they are utilizing the actual technology effectively or not. I think we also have this kind of dichotomy as well, where in education, we're kind of, for a while, even up until now, I think we're saying that AI is kind of forbidden in a way. Because of our concerns about how it's going to impact on cognition, and I'm certainly concerned about that as well. But at the same time, businesses saying like this is an efficiency, we're going to maximize this. So we need to kind of meet somewhere in the middle, because I also think that if we're not careful and we just go for these efficiencies, our learners are not going to be learning, and then think how that's likely to impact business and critical thinking skills and all that sort of thing of the future. So as an institution, we're kind of thinking about, well, how do we build these AI-ready graduates? So how do we take our learners to ensure that they are kind of match fit for this new world that exists that they're moving out into? And I would say at the moment, we're still not fully kind of doing this. We're leaning into it, but we're not fully there. But we need to be creating these kind of, AI-ready graduates in our schools, in our colleges, in our universities. And we also need to be communicating between these sectors and with business to ensure that we're getting the skills that are required all the way through. I'm also concerned about the fact that this technology is likely to have a really significant negative impact if we don't get it right, and there's lots of evidence to suggest that that is already happening. And the issue that basically our young learners in particular are kind of using this for everything, which is a big concern. So it's not just doing their homework, they're using it for relationships, life decisions, this sort of thing. So if we're not educating our learners about this, it's potentially going to have catastrophic effects for our learners long term. And this is coming out more and more in the research that is out there at the moment. Okay. So where does that take us as the Glasgow Academy? Okay, so I think from our perspective, this has been a journey. This is not something that we've just done in the last year. This has been a process that has been running literally since ChatGPT launched that first version in like November 2022. So I remember that kind of day or that period really well. Staff were talking about it in the staff room as in, have you seen this? And there was this kind of concern. So there was a group of early adopters within our school that actually approached our rector to discuss this perspective. Like this could be the greatest opportunity in education, but equally we're concerned about the impact this is going to have. And initially at that stage, my initial concern was with assessment and also the impact that this might have on cognition. Okay, and then we were very lucky to be in a position where our rector was kind of forward thinking and recognized at the same time that this was going to have potential significant impact on education. And as a result of that, kind of like called these early adopters together to basically establish an AI working group. And our approach has been very much sort of ground up, but also top down at the same time. So we've been supported by our senior leadership. But the movement has initially come from, the staff body, and I think that's worked really, really well, because it's very much a grassroots support, but with that top-down support at the same time. So our rector's been front and centre in assemblies and that sort of thing, talking about AI. So it's not become this sort of dirty word in our institution, which I think there is a potential tendency for it to have, particularly within education sectors, because of the concerns of the fact that it's kind of like cheating. And it is cheating if you use it incorrectly, but if you use it correctly, then I think it has the potential to really transform what we're doing in education itself. Okay, so this is basically then taking us on a journey through the training of staff initially, so that they were aware of really the AI literacy behind this technology. So looking at hallucinations, bias, how it sort of works, anthropomorphization, how this is likely to impact things like safeguarding, child protection, understanding data protection in the context of this. Where is your data going? What is safe to use? And that dialogue was started really, really early, and we ran sessions as a whole school. So we're a 3 to 18 school, so we had our junior school and our senior school working collectively together. So that's really been important as well. In fact, it's increased our communication as a result of kind of approaching it that way, and it's had other positive knock-on effects just in terms of team dynamics across both the junior and senior schools, because of the relationships that have been built there at the same time. Now, obviously, the situation in the junior school is different from the senior school in terms of the utilization of these AI products. Like the young people in the junior school can't use them directly, but there was an understanding that we needed to educate those young people because they were being exposed to the AI even from an early age by their own parents. So understanding that this is a machine, understanding what is a prompt and can your teacher create that prompt, and let's analyze that output. So we've kind of approached it from the junior school with very much a teacher-led perspective, with the pupils engaged in the process. And then in the senior school, we decided that the best way to deliver sort of this AI literacy was through our PSE. So we started a PSE series of lessons last November, whereby they got a series of 4 lessons that basically took them through the basics of bias, hallucinations, anthropomorphization, deepfakes, and then eventually led them through to what is prompting, how do you prompt, how do you check outputs, how do you verify outputs, so that every pupil in our school has, from S1, our in their senior school, to S6, our leavers, has had that AI literacy initially to kind of stimulate their understanding of it. Those in our exam years have also had a greater emphasis on what is intellectual property, how does this affect your exams, so that they've got that context at the same time too, so that they are kind of protecting themselves from inadvertently using a product that might affect their outcomes, in SQA exams and that sort of thing. Okay, so that means at the moment our senior school is in a position where we know that all our learners have gone through those PSE lessons. We have records of them completing quizzes to show their understanding. So we've evidenced that pathway at the same time too, which is, I think, also been an important part of this journey. And I think that's the key thing. It is a journey, and we're certainly not finished in that process. How to kind of integrate this AI literacy. So we factored it into our PSE lessons initially, but long term, I think we need to be putting this into our regular academic lessons as well, so that it's exemplified in context. But the key thing has basically been, transparency, ensuring that they're only using the models that we're saying are safe. In terms, we're a Microsoft 365 school, so our young people and our staff are only using Copilot to input any data, and the data that they're inputting is protected at enterprise level, so that everybody knows that they're working in a safe environment. But also, we're teaching our learners that actually AI might not be the answer, so it's not the first thing that you jump to. Okay, so really AI is part of the discourse, but it's not the first place that you go to. And in fact, sometimes it is not the right place to go, and actually you should be just sitting down with pen and paper, and the good old-fashioned way of approaching things is actually what is needed for that learner to progress in their learning. We've also been concerned about misuse and within our pupils, and we're kind of coming from the perspective that they are not certain how to use it properly. They're misusing it just through a lack of understanding. So therefore, we shouldn't be punishing our young learners if they have been using it. We need to educate them about how to use it appropriately. So we've been using things like the AI assessment scale that you might have seen from Leon Furs, which is basically like a traffic light system, so that our pupils know when it's appropriate and when it's not. And then we're giving clear guidelines in terms of our pupils who are involved in exam years of what the requirements from our Qualification Scotland are. So basically, they can't use AI to support coursework and that sort of thing. So it's really clear for our learners what those parameters are. Okay, and I think what we still need to work on more is really how we change the perspective of what learning is, and I think that AI has just put a massive kind of lens onto this. The idea that we need to be teaching our young learners about what the value of learning is. So effectively what they're going to be kind of losing if they use AI in an inappropriate way. So that idea of cognitive offloading or even worse, cognitive outsourcing. So it's even making decisions for you. So I think we need to be teaching our learners more about that perspective. So what is the value of actually learning? We're not here just to get answers. There's a greater perspective to this in terms of lifelong learning. So this is a skill that I think maybe is getting lost in our education system because it's so, let's say, product focused, and we need to be kind of more sort of process orientated. And I know that the education system changes slowly, but I think if schools, we have the power to kind of change that perspective, even though the endpoint is a product, we can still emphasize this kind of process orientated approach, and hopefully the education system then catches up with that. We've also been looking at the issues as a school associated, with embedding AI into our school system. The challenges have been, effectively that there's been coordinated, let's say, national guidance, although that's starting to change, which is obviously really, really welcome. But there are loads of issues. How do you train the staff? How do you train the pupils almost at the same time? How do we ensure that we're not, that the data is going to where it's safe? All those sorts of things. So this, is an issue that all schools are facing, but it would be really useful, I think, if we had some more direct national guidance that took the responsibility away from schools, so that it was clearer, how to actually go about this. Maybe that will come eventually. Okay. The other issue is we don't know the impact of this. So I spend a lot of time reading research papers now about the impacts that AI might be having on education or not, in terms of cognition and development of critical thinking skills and that sort of thing. And I'll read one paper that says it's a nightmare, and the next paper says, and this under these parameters it can improve cognition. So I think the key thing that I'm reading really is that it's how it's utilized is the key thing. So that means we have to teach our staff how to teach our learners how to use this technology effectively, so therefore it does augment learning, augments critical thinking, augments cognition, rather than eroding that. Okay. The other issue is obviously compromised assessment. So this is a global issue. I suspect this year that there will be assessments that have been, submitted for coursework that have been AI generated, and we would have no way of knowing that now, unless you're kind of tracking the progress of those learners regularly, almost documenting the process rather than just the end product. Okay, but the system at the moment doesn't necessarily focus on that. It's really just on that product. So this is a massive, challenge within the education system. Okay, so I've got two kind of last summary slides. There are some other slides that have loads of links on. So once you get access to the presentation, you'll be able to get all those links in there. So things like the traffic light system and all that sort of thing are going to be in there. You'll get a chance to do that. So in summary, really, it's like, how do you train staff before pupils, but then just slightly out of phase, have the pupils being trained at the same time as well. I think we've been looking at this, rather than having policy for AI, we've been looking at guidelines, really, because things just change so rapidly. So it's like we almost have a 6-monthly iteration cycle at the moment for what is now different in terms of AI and how is it impacting what we're doing in the school and what do we need to change. Like what new wearables are there that we haven't taken account of so far that might be affecting our exams, that sort of thing. That it's a real community process, so speak to all of your stakeholders. That's from governors to parents and everyone in between, and all your other external stakeholders at the same time as well. I think we need to be thinking about process over product, teaching principles, not the specific products. Like, it's really, how do you utilize AI effectively? Don't use AI checkers, they're a complete waste of time. And then how do we get past some of this, what's called shadow AI, where as a school, you're saying to your staff and your learners, use, let's say, Copilot, but they are used to using ChatGPT and don't like Copilot. So how do you meet somewhere in the middle to ensure that they are getting that they're working in a safe environment? And I'm seeing this more and more with pupils, more and more with staff. They're frustrated by the technology. It's not the same across the board, and there are pros and cons of all of them, I'm sure. Okay. Where are we going next? We're kind of looking at this at more like strategic systems level now. So we're less focused on the specific technology. We're trying to think about how we now set up a system that can adopt the best of any technology. So this is really about kind of culture in a school and how do we ensure that learning happens effectively and how we don't erode cognition. Okay. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to hand you over to David now. I see that there have been questions coming into the chat. Please keep posting those questions in there if you've got them, and I'll just stop sharing and I'll pass you on to David.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, David.
Right, let me just take my presentation back again. So, as Jamie's already introduced me, my name's David Hilston. I'm a curriculum team manager at Edinburgh College, and I've had many years, I'm not going to give you the number, of working in further education, but also working in school-college partnerships, working on seconded posts in the Scottish Government, just recently finished one with developing digital and data science skills across the curriculum, and that's data education in college as part of the data skills gateway. So when I started out in that program 3-4 years ago, we weren't really, AI has always been there. However, in the last couple of years, it's really now trending in a big way. When something trends that fast, then it's very difficult to, we used to talk about being a page in front of learners when it came to applications like Photoshop, but actually I think that's all gone out the window now. So it's a very, very hard indeed. So this is based on Edinburgh College, and to change that culture, it needs to be a whole college network, and it's just not one college. And through organisations like the College Levent Network, Qualification Scotland, Skills Development Scotland, all these organisations should be there to support all the colleges to try and share that practice. And that's what I like about sessions like this. It's about sharing the practice. I say this every day. I'm no AI expert. My background is digital skills, but it's not really about digital skills. It's about using AI across the curriculum. So it's already shaping teaching, learning and operations in further education. And what I mean by that is student experience. So it's been there in a sort of informal way, but But now I would say Edinburgh College is in a good position because they've developed a set of 6 principles that has guided staff and students. Now, that was developed through our quality assurance team and also a learning digital technologies team. So our team lead in digital technologies actually led on this programme, and they've developed the 6 principles that the whole college will use, and I don't just mean curriculum staff, I'm talking about staff, students, across student experience as well. But what I liked about that development was it actually was co-created with everyone across the college. So there was a network set up where we had people that were delivering construction skills, we had people working in student support, we had people their job was working with data, not a data scientist, but working with data day in, day out. So quite a wide range of people were as part of that group. So it was very much co-creative. Just go to my next slide, hopefully. So there we are. So AI is no longer emerging. It's now embedded and integrated. And actually, Jamie touched on some of that near the end there. So if I think about it, that across FE, there's a traditional unit, and I'm going to call it a traditional unit called Core Skills ICT. In fact, I was on a verification visit. Was it this week or last week? This is Thursday, isn't it? It was last week. And it's been delivered at a school that I attended. So Core Skills ICT has been around for a long, long time. And I would say I could go back to 1999, 2000, when that unit and the concept behind Core Skills was developed. But however, for many years, I've fed back, like a lot of centres, I've fed back that unit's quite dated. But it has 4 tasks. They don't use outcomes, it's 4 tasks, and it's very much project-based. But the last task is keeping information safe. And what we're now doing is integrating AI into that unit that's been around a long, long time. So data security has been around a long, long time. We've been delivering how to deal with personal data for a long time. And a lot of these skills are the core skills that should then be used as a foundation within AI and how to, make it more responsible. So the question no longer whether colleges should use AI, but it's all about how should you use it in a responsible way. And that's been our focus. And that's why the 6 guiding principles have actually been a good foundation. And I've got to say, as I said, I'm no expert in AI, but it has improved my job. It's improved formative assessment. It's helped students that need that assistance. We don't use it for summative assessment. We follow the Qualification Scotland guidelines on the use of AI and any other awarding body that the college deliver courses for. So we make sure that, our key challenge was about really the rapid adoption of this in an informal way and how to actually get, I suppose, a grip of that, and so that we could standardise in some sort of way. And that's what the guiding principles have done. And these principles matter because they create a balance between innovation, safety, efficiency, ethics, opportunity, and accountability. Now, I like the innovation and opportunity, but what should come first is safety, ethics, and accountability. And now we're at the innovation and opportunity stage where we're looking at developing a unit in human skills and AI. And I'll mention that near the end. And Jamie's mentioned already on how much human skills is at the centre. There should be a human being at the beginning and a human being at the end. I'll not talk through all these principles, but as Jamie said, there's links at the end that I'll actually give you an access to that. It's a public document anyway. So the principles alone are not enough. We need a practical AI adoption strategy, and that should include why we're using AI, because we shouldn't just be using AI for the sake of it. What could go wrong if you use it? Should you actually be giving student feedback when using personal data? Who's accountable? Can users understand it? And is it safe and effective? So any AI platform should be considered high risk until confirmed as safe. It's already been mentioned, Edinburgh College are a Microsoft 365 college. So like many, but there's many other tools out there that we could use, but Copilot is a tool that we use here. And that's what is encouraged that we use. We don't have any control over students using AI tools through tablets or mobiles. However, through formative work, we do encourage them to use it, but not summative. It's about building trust. So what it means in practice really is staff use approved platforms only. Any new screening tools needs to go through a process, and that's supported by our quality assurance and learning and digital technologies team. We have clear guidance on data handling through the data protection team. And as I've said already, human oversight remains essential. Learners can challenge AI-assisted decisions because, as a reminder, we should always remember AI outputs are not always accurate, neutral or unbiased, and AI should support professional judgment, not replace it. And that's why I keep reinforcing saying the security and the ethics side of AI should always be delivered first in a creative way. And when I say delivered, CPD for staff, but also it should be part of a learner's induction. What are the benefits? Well, some of this has been covered already. If you think about our student services staff, then it's reducing admin burden, faster resource creation. There's a lot of good tools out there that, for example, like Teachermatic, which I've first used, and there may be people in this session that have used it as well. I actually tried that out first and I thought it was great. There's a lot of colleges picked up that tool. I think Copilot's great for doing learning plans. I think it supports the personalisation of what you do, because you can do it's all about brainstorming, coming up with ideas, making your own delivery more effective and more creative. It's still, we've got to look at staff confidence, we've got to look at the AI literacy, we've got to look at the critical evaluation skills, and also the pedagogy side of things as well. So I think I read a message post in the chat there that about CPD and how do you get staff that are a bit wary of using AI. I would say the number one is good staff professional development and actually sharing of practice, not in your own college, I think elsewhere. So sessions like this is so important. We shouldn't be all doing it alone. Staff need awareness of data and privacy risks. However, keeping information safe has been around there for a long time, even well before the digital environment. Practical prompting skills, understanding things like malpractice within the assessment process. I mean, the goal is to have AI capable learners, AI confident staff, and responsible AI citizens, and that's the three And I know that the Data Lab and the Data Skills for Work came up with a framework for AI and data, and they work on which I think is fantastic, where you've got the AI and data citizen, AI and data worker. It used to be a lot easier when it was just data worker and data citizen and data professional. And I think that's a really nice framework that can be adapted as well. So AI is not just technical skills. Sometimes it then falls into the computer science department. That's not where it belongs. It belongs to across the curriculum. It's critical thinking. So, you know, it is a challenge to institutes, but we need to come up with more authentic assessment approaches. We need more project-based assessment. We need more open book. We need more reflective tasks. We need more oral discussion, direct observation. We need to get to know our students more. So all these elements need to come back into the creative practitioner, the actual teacher themselves. My concern, I actually read a post just on Monday or Tuesday. It'd be Tuesday. It was a Monday holiday. And I think it was Simon Hewitt, the principal of Dundee and Angus College, posted up on LinkedIn. His concern was around digital poverty or the unequal devices access. So it's talking about digital exclusion. I think the AI will actually increase that issue. And, you know, I think the commitment should be to promote an equal access, maintain access to devices and software. I know schools are slightly different when it comes to using, some schools get a tablet or a Google Chromebook from S3 or every single pupil, and it's all inconsistent. We should be making digital inclusion mean digital inclusion rather than us excluding quite a target audience. And the colleges deliver to a wide range of learners, and we deliver from SEQF level 3 right up to level 8 and 9, which is quite a wide range of people, adult returners, school called partnerships, and so on. Just the final reflections from me is we need to see the opportunities for FE. What are the improved efficiencies? How can we enhance learner support? What are the new teaching possibilities? And also thinking about the workforce readiness. And on that note, hopefully I've got one more. Yes, I have. There we are. So I mentioned early on, because of the 6 principles and that guidance from Edinburgh College, which I've then changed my whole approach and what learners should have as part of their delivery. Number 1, core skills ICT falls under myself. We're building, integrating, not so much embedded, but integrating tasks, formative tasks that relate to AI and traditional units. But we're also looking at this new unit. We've got some funding to work with Code Division and also a social enterprise organisation called Nomad Alba, who we've developed a unit. It should be ready in August, and it's human skills and AI. And we've put the human skills at the front, right at the beginning. And that, my vision is to have that delivered right across the curriculum, whether it's health and social care, engineering, sport, social, everybody would actually do that unit. And it would have elements of the traditional digital skills as well. And that's me. Hopefully that was useful.
Thank you very much, David. That was brilliant as well. I totally agree with your perspective of this being a sort of cultural shift. I think that actually this has just put a lens on education in a really positive way, where if we have greater focus on like process-based outcomes, that I think actually we generate actually long-term better lifelong learners by doing that. And it just means that we need to kind of change our approaches, and that's where the challenge comes. But if we get it right, I think our learners are definitely going to benefit from that for sure. Okay. I think there were some questions that have kind of popped up in the chat. The misinformation question about incomplete information from social media. Yeah, so this is not just about AI. I mean, there is digital literacy that's beyond this as well, that where misinformation is out there, and we definitely need to be educating our learners. I think it's almost like our learners need to slow down sometimes, I think, to really analyze what they're being presented and kind of question it. And I don't know if we're teaching our learners to do that effectively. And I think for me that's going to become even more important in this age of AI. You don't know what you can and cannot trust, so therefore you need to be healthily skeptical of anything you're being presented with, to look at the sources of that information before kind of relying on it. So again, that's a cultural shift in how you actually approach sources in the first place as well. You anything to add to that, David, on that one?
No, I think you've covered that one, and I know there was another question. I think you've maybe covered it already, Jamie. And it was the assessment tool, the traffic light system.
Yeah. I've dropped that into the chat.
I thought I'd seen that. Yeah. I noticed that Joe Wilson, I know Joe, he's posted up the Teachermatic, and I think, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think you can get a free trial with that, the Teachermatic. It's worth, if you're starting out with AI, then you could try that one out as a tool. And there's colleges that have recognised that tool and actually have got licenses for that. I'm not pushing that, can I say, because I know my own college don't do it, but I know that I've used it, and I know it's been improved recently as well. There was a question there. What was the college lecturer's name David mentioned? Did I mention a college lecturer's name? I can't really recall that one. No, I don't think I mentioned any name, but it might have been something to do with Teachermatic. I don't know.
I'm also looking at this question. How do you deal with teachers who are skeptical about AI?
Yeah.
I actually think it's really healthy to be skeptical about AI, and I think that actually you can carry those teachers along with you if you're listening to that perspective. So it's important to have actually this very balanced perspective on AI, because if we don't, and you just think it's the bee's knees, I think that actually that's going to be kind of catastrophic for our learners. So having that healthy skepticism, but also presenting the potential that this technology has, and the fact that the reality is that, again, whether we like it or not, AI is already in our schools. So if we don't lean into that, that's going to cause a bigger long-term problem for our learners. So teaching a healthy skepticism, but also teaching how to use the tool at the same time as well, I think that's actually where we need to be. And so having both of those perspectives, in your schools, is a really healthy place to be at. And it's listening to both of those perspectives so that we can then arm our pupils, our students, in the appropriate way to really take advantage of the best of that. Let's say.
Yes, it was Simon Hewitt that I mentioned. I did mention Simon Hewitt, and Simon's the principal at Dun. Thanks for that, Liz, for tidying up on that. It was Simon Hewitt, and there was a post he put up on LinkedIn, and I could possibly share that link as part of the presentation links, and you could have a read at that. And he was basing it on an article I read as well, and I think it's quite useful to read that, because Simon at that level, the senior management level, is quite refreshing that they see that is very important. So thanks, Liz. There was something that you mentioned there, Jamie, that got me thinking. Getting that sort of buy-in for staff that are skeptical. I always see this as a tool to enhance what we deliver and how we teach. And I remember many, many years ago when virtual learning environments were introduced to colleges, and the same question was asked because lecturers thought this was going to replace their jobs. This is you're just going to upload stuff to virtual learning environment, and you'll have reduced face-to-face. I would say it's increased that 100%, and I think you've got your delivery in the classroom face-to-face, and a virtual learning environment will actually enhance what you do. So let's roll this into 2026. AI will do the same. And I think it just takes time. Nobody thinks about putting stuff up to Teams now. And it just takes time. CPD is so important. So important.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that if you're just listening to the voices in your teams, all perspectives are valuable at the moment. Someone shared, the Stanford report, the 2026 report. If you haven't had a look at that kind of goes into this perspective as well, of just like how pupils are using it, where are the benefits, where are the concerns. And if we don't have that balanced perspective, because the technology is so new, we're going to get this wrong. So we do need to listen to both of those perspectives to ensure that we, do get this right for our. It's in the chat already. So it's the Stanford 2026 report. Terry Carr's put it in earlier. Also, if you're not part of LinkedIn, so I was not part of LinkedIn before AI. Okay, but I would say that actually LinkedIn is a really healthy kind of professional space to engage with this. There's a lot of good information that's posted out there because some stuff comes out so rapidly, but also you get a global perspective. That's where I find this has been most useful. And you don't know where the good ideas are going to kind of come from. So how to get the strategies right for your own school. I think if you're looking at perspectives globally, you're going to find the kind of right fit for you. And we're still at that point just now where kind of, schools and local authorities are being asked to kind of do this on their own. So definitely having that global outlook is going to help you probably come up with a solution that is suitable for your community. So knowing your demographic within that, where your learners are at, what accessibility do they have already? This digital divide thing. If you've not even got devices in the hand of the learners, well, actually the AI it's useless for you. So it's about thinking about where you are on this journey and how best to get yourself onto the next stage of that journey. Okay.
Yeah, there's a question around project-based learning. I've got to say that we've found it useful from planning a project, and it doesn't matter what the project. In fact, it was a data science project, and it lends itself nicely for AI, not asking the AI to analyze a data project, but actually the planning of it, and using AI to support the life cycle. So it's more about the problem stage and the planning stage, and using the AI for research at the formative side of things. And we do always ask for learners to submit written work to us first, and we mark it at the draft stage so that we know when they actually submit their final one that it's not been put through AI. And projects and individual unique projects. If I give an example, this morning I was working with a group at Access to Industry in the Cowgate, Edinburgh, and each learner has their own unique project, their own topic, and AI supported that. Now, we could have in the past come up with all these different topics, but AI supported us to put the planning together. And I'm talking about the teaching staff. It supported. And it allowed us then to personalise with each learner. It then allowed them to have a project that's more relevant and meaningful to them. So when they've got to pick up the skills of data science, that they do that in a naturally occurring way and not by just ticking boxes. So using AI around the early stages of planning and problem solving is what we use it for. I don't know if you've anything to add.
Yeah, I've just put into the chat as well. There's a report that literally I think came out last week or something like that. It's called the Future of Education Reports by an organisation called Future Design School, and it's actually really, really, really good. It's a big document. It's like about 140 pages, I think, but it really comes from the perspective of like marrying two things together, which is really digital stroke AI literacy and cognitive literacy. So getting your learners to understand what they're going to be missing if they just jump wholeheartedly into AI, how to use AI to kind of support that. It talks about metacognition. It talks about case studies of how in subject context to exemplify process over product. It talks about project-based learning, exemplifies that in the age of AI. It's a really, really good document. I only just read it yesterday, but I would wholeheartedly recommend that anybody has a look at that if they're just trying to think about how to sort of introduce that at subject levels specifically. I know like with the curriculum and improvement plan that's happening in Scotland at the moment, there's a big focus on IDL within that. So actually, our own curriculum review and improvement is steering us in this direction anyway. So more on this kind of processed interdisciplinary approach for our learners. So it's just how do you use AI in that context? So that it's in the chat just now. The Future of Education report helps contextualize that a little bit further as well. I think it's from the USA, but it's it's very relevant to our current landscape at the same time as well.
Yeah, and I think Joe's Wilson's brought up a good point there, and I'll just read out the last bit. It's not AI's fault; it's a lack of digital literacy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you were to go back 3 or 4 years before AI was trending around using the likes of Copilot, ChatGPT, and so on, that digital literacy is different from data literacy, and it's also different from AI literacy. But you need the digital tool to support you to actually implement the two. And Joe's right, the basic skills there are required first of all, along with the human skills as well.
I think we can maybe take one last question if anyone's got any questions before we sort of close. If anyone has one, pop it in the chat. I think Terry would like to speak. And is there Stephen, if you could allow Terry to... in the chat at the moment, saying it's interesting. It should be on now, Terry. Do you want to... If you unmute your mic?
Yes, thank you, Jamie. I really just wanted to thank you both very much for this really first-class discussion on AI. Like you, I was an early adopter of AI, and I work on it just now internationally. And the sort of discussions that you're having now are having all over the work areas that I've worked in, Middle East, Far East, and the States as well. So it really is so important that people get together and try and sort these things out, because nobody knows the real way forward. You just got to learn as you progress. And as you say, it's important to emphasize the safety, the ethical use, and the management of data. That's all I wanted to say. Just really to thank you very much for this session.
Well, thank you very much as well. I'm glad you could join us, Terry. It's really nice to get that feedback. Just on that note, We would really appreciate like your feedback, and what I mean by that is, whereas we're the sort of group champions for education, we would like to direct what happens next by your feedback, how you would like to see this kind of facilitate your learning and all our learning at the same time. And we're sort of with Data Lab Scotland endeavour to get in other guest speakers in specific areas if that's something that you're looking for, you know, that sort of thing. So if you could fill out that feedback form for us, I've put the link in the chat. The QR code is obviously up on the screen at the moment as well. David, myself, and the rest of the team would really appreciate that so that we can then get it right for the next session. Our intention is to kind of run these sort of like on a quarterly fashion. So there'll be a bit of a gap, you know, over this, I guess, the summer break, let's call it, but we'll be back in the new academic year. But the idea is that the community kind of runs this. It's not David and I dictating what happens next. So if you've got ideas, if you'd like to speak yourself, if you've got a contact or a connection that you would like to share with us, all of that sort of information would be greatly appreciated. If you've liked what we've done, we would like to hear about that. Equally, if you don't like what we've done and we want to improve, so please just give us that feedback and that perspective. David, have you got anything else you want to add?
No, not at all. And just thanks again, Terry, for your kind comments. That makes it worthwhile, actually. And also the reinforcement of the ethical and the secure side of things, but also sharing best practice. That's me, Jamie.
Right, awesome. I think that's us. So everyone, safe travels, have a good evening, and we'll hopefully see you at the next one. We look forward to seeing and reading your feedback. Okay, thank you very much.